AEW 300 is just a couple of days away, and when you look back at the history of AEW Dynamite, there have been so many incredible moments. So today I'm going to list 10 of the very best AEW Dynamite moments of all time. And trust me, this list was incredibly hard to do. In no particular order, let's get right to it. I want to kick off the list with the AEW debut of this man right here, Sting! December 2nd, 2020, AEW fans everywhere were super freaking shocked when Sting made his debut. I still remember sitting down watching Dynamite in my room and seeing, not expecting whatsoever, the lights to go down. We see this video pop up on the screen and we're seeing like snowy mountains, and you're really not entirely too sure what it's all about until suddenly you see the letters on the screen and it says Sting, and this huge pop emerges from the crowd. Everybody just had this, oh my god, I can't believe it, because nobody saw this coming. Nobody was expecting it. There was no rumors, no leaks, none of that. So it was a complete and total surprise. This was the first time that Sting had been on TNT since 2001. It had also been 18 years since he had last had a match on TNT. This not only made AEW feel extra cool, like anything can happen, but also what this led to was an entirely new and beautiful era for Sting, because we had known WCW Sting, WWE Sting, TNA Sting, but then to get Sting in AEW and for this to be the final run of his career, this led to so much good stuff for Sting. Not only did it introduce him to a whole bunch of new fans, but also the little stingers that had been with him all along got to see him extend his career in a totally different but awesome way. Of course, the partnership and relationship with Darby Allin, that was something incredible. And of course, we can't forget his retirement at AEW Revolution, which may just be the best retirement we have ever seen. The way that his career was celebrated. So of course, Sting making his AEW debut has to be on this list. And since we're on the topic of Sting, there is no way that I can't include this next moment, specifically when Darby Allin and Sting won the AEW World Tag Team titles. They defeated the team of Ricky Starks and Big Bill to become champions. This was a massive moment because we had already had this friendship, this bond, this partnership between Darby and Sting for such an incredible amount of time. So then for us to see them win the tag team titles, it just really felt like a very special moment. I think every AEW fan in that moment was feeling emotional, and even thinking back to it, I'm just so happy that they got to become tag team champions and hold the tag team titles. Like, what an awesome moment for Darby Allin to get to say that he was tag team champions with Sting. Next up on our list of greatest AEW Dynamite moments is one of the matches that we were really anticipating the second that we saw that both of these two men were under the same exact company. And that, my friends, is Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega from AEW Dynamite Grand Slam, September 22, 2021. This, of course, ended in a time limit draw, but this was a match that I don't think fans will forget. There was a lot that was happening at this time period, like just the fact that we were having Bryan Danielson and Kenny Omega in the exact same company, two of the very best wrestlers of all time. This was massive, but then on top of that, you added the fact that AEW was in Arthur Ashe in New York. That was a big freaking deal. They performed in front of like 20,000 people, I believe was the number. And so for them to have this kind of a matchup on that show in that stadium, you go back and you watch this match, you just feel the energy of the crowd and the excitement and just that cool it factor that AEW had. And I think it's a huge reason as to why AEW has been so successful, is because they've been able to put on moments like this. Another really cool thing about seeing Bryan and Kenny Omega together in this matchup is that this was their first singles match together in AEW. So they had not faced each other since 2000 2009, and that was in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, which was a local indie out here in Los Angeles that got very popular. So since then, they had not actually had a match against each other. So seeing Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson on this kind of a stage, the wrestling gods were on our side and they were gifting us with this match. Now on to another really big AEW Dynamite moment. So we all know that in this building, in this house, we love the cowboy, Hangman Adam Page. If you're here right now watching this video, make sure to share the cowboy emoji and the poop emoji in the comment section below. But anyways, it was the return of Hangman Adam Page when he was the Joker on the October 2021 Casino Ladder match during the second anniversary edition of AEW Dynamite, which was held live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So Hangman Page had been gone due to paternity leave. So when Hangman's music hit, I swear you just hear this big pop because Hangman Page is somebody that I think the AEW fans have always really loved, and he holds a big piece of AEW fans' heart. So when Hangman Page came in, immediately he went after John Moxley, Orange Cassidy, literally took everybody out, right? But there's one specific moment that to this day, I believe is one of the craziest spots that we have ever seen on AEW programming. And that, my friends, is the freaking Deadeye from the top of the ladder to the table from Hangman Page to Pac. I still remember watching that and just feeling like, oh my God, I had never seen anybody do that before. And even when I went back to watch this for this video, again, same thing. It was like I'd seen it for the first time. And so it was a really incredible moment. Eventually, Hangman Page wins. He pulls down the little chip and he gets the win. And we all know that he then goes on to face Kenny Omega at Full Gear. I was there. He becomes AEW World Champion and goes on to have his first title reign as AEW World Champion, and hopefully soon his second at AEW Allin, fingers crossed. Now onto this next highly anticipated AEW Dynamite moment. We need to talk about two of the guys that are the very best when it comes to the microphone, and that, my friends, is Maxwell Jacob Friedman and CM Punk. On the AEW Dynamite episode that aired on November 24th, 2021, we got to see the first promo battle between CM Punk and MJF. So CM Punk had only been in AEW for a couple of months at this point. He had made his debut in August 2021. So it had only been a couple of months and people were wanting to see him across the ring from MJF, right? They're two of the very best talkers. We know that MJF is the kind of guy that would say anything, right? Like he says anything to get a reaction. So you knew that he was going to go all in on CM Punk, and there was a lot to say because at this point, CM Punk still had beef with WWE. Like we never at this point in time expected CM Punk to come back to wrestling, nor did we expect CM Punk to go to freaking WWE later on, right? But that's for a whole other video. But in this time and moment, MJF literally had a laundry list of things that he could bring up to CM Punk. So you had that aspect of it. Then you had the aspect of, oh, I cannot wait to see CM Punk roast the hell out of MJF. So the excitement of what MJF was going to bring and then how CM Punk was going to retaliate, that was the thing that kept people in anticipation of this promo war. And it happened in Chicago. So this was about like 18 or so minutes of just back and forth between MJF and CM Punk. Now, the gist of what we got from MJF, he mentioned the pipe bomb. He mentioned that CM Punk was a straight edge guy who looked like a meth addict. He said he was going to finish off CM Punk faster than his UFC career. He called him soft and said if anybody needed to go to sleep, looking at his eyes, CM Punk was the one who needed to go to sleep, and then referred to him as PG Punk, amongst other things. On CM Punk's side, he really mocked MJF for being my jealous fan, the real meaning behind MJF. He even referred to him as a less famous Miz. CM Punk poked fun at MJF by saying that while CM Punk was selling out Madison Square Garden, MJF was marking out to Rosie O'Donnell. For those of you who don't recall, MJF did sing on Rosie O'Donnell. And then CM Punk even alluded to him being like Triple H by saying that he was going to be waiting around for Tony Khan to have a daughter so that he could marry her. So a little shot at Triple H. And closed it off by calling him Needle Dick. Also, if you're keeping track, MJF's, you know what, has now been referred to as a Needle Dick and also a kosher pickle. Now, for those of you guys who watched this whole entire MJF CM Punk feud unfold, you will recall that they went on to have an amazing dog collar match that took place at AEW Revolution 2022. It was one of the most bloodiest matches, most violent matches that I have ever seen, especially live in person. So I always was a big fan of the feud that we saw between MJF and CM Punk, and it was one of my favorite things that we got to see CM Punk do in AEW. So of course, their first interaction absolutely had to be on this list. Earlier I mentioned that one of the most loved guys in AEW is Hangman Page. Another guy who is also one of the most loved guys on AEW is Orange Cassidy. Orange Cassidy has always been a guy that you instantly associate with AEW. When you think AEW, you'll mention Orange Cassidy as one of those names that we first got to know. And so when he won for the very first time the All Atlantic Championship, which was later changed into the International title, but when he won, it was still the All Atlantic title. But when he won his first championship in AEW, that was a pretty massive moment. That occurred when he defeated Pac on the October 12, 2022 edition of AEW Dynamite in Toronto. Pac and Orange Cassidy had incredible chemistry, so they made for a really good match. Pac to this day is still one of my most favorite guys on AEW. And when Orange Cassidy won the title, because he had done so much in AEW and it was his first championship win, the crowd absolutely lost it and celebrated this victory for him. But on top of that, he ended up holding that championship belt for 326 days. To this day, when I think of this title, I instantly think of Orange Cassidy because he really went on to have a phenomenal reign and really solidified that belt. Now for this next moment, you are not ready. I still can't believe I was here for the MJF promo where he called Tony Khan a effing mark on June 1st, 2022 in Los Angeles at the Kia Forum. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think this may have also been the debut of AEW in LA, like the first LA event that they held. I'm pretty sure was this one. Now, this promo, I don't even think AEW has up on their YouTube channel because this was a little bit of a controversial one. So let's rewind to what was actually going on around this time. So this took place following AEW Double or Nothing that year. Now, if you guys recall, MJF was the most talked about person that weekend because he no-showed a fan fest. And so instantly, all of this speculation started that maybe MJF was unhappy with AEW. People were worried that he wasn't even going to show up for his match against Wardlow at Double or Nothing. He was going to take a flight and leave. It was a whole thing. I remember being at GCW and having fans come up to me and be like, what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? It was all anybody could talk about that weekend. So that should kind of tell you how big of a story this was at the time. So MJF does show up to that match at Double or Nothing and loses to Wardlow rather quickly. And everybody was like, oh shit, you know, like what's happening, right? But I don't think any of us expected this promo to go down on June 1st. So basically the gist of this was that he was demanding respect and more money. But of course, MJF didn't just say it like that. No, he said it a lot more colorfully. One of the things that he said that had people like jaw dropped, in fact, they even showed a fan doing this, like the cut sign, like, bro, stop talking, because that is how much of a reaction this got. MJF said that he was one of the biggest draws in AEW minute per minute, but that Tony Khan wasn't opening up his wallet to give him that money. He said that Tony Khan was saving all of that money for the ex-WWE wrestlers that were coming to the company that couldn't lace MJF's boots. And everybody was like, oh shit, because at that time you kept hearing of WWE guys going to AEW and, of course, making that big money. When MJF was clearly one of the biggest draws, if not the biggest draw in AEW. So MJF saying this, everybody was like, oh damn, like he's really got something there. He even questioned Tony Khan and said, hey boss, would you treat me any better if I was an ex-WWE wrestler? And I was like, ah! I was in the crowd just like jumping up and down, yo. Like the whole time I was like this. So then he closed out the promo by calling Tony Khan an effing mark and yelling directly into the camera, like sending a message to Tony Khan. And then that's it. Like his mic was turned off and they went to commercial break and MJF ended up leaving through the crowd. It was a crazy, crazy experience to watch all of that play out in real time and to be in the crowd for that, even though maybe I don't know how AEW feels when they look at this moment, but I know that it's hella freaking entertaining and it feels like that thing that if you were there and you were part of this, whether you watched it on TV, you were live in the building, it was like you saw something that was forbidden, right? You know, AEW doesn't really promote this, so it was great. I had to include it on this list. Now, one of the more recent things that have occurred in AEW that I had to have to put on this list is Hangman Adam Page burning down Swerve Strickland's childhood home, and this occurred in September of 2024. So we all know the history between Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland. It got very personal and very violent. And we also know that this story was so freaking good that many people have considered this one of the best, if not the best stories ever told in AEW history. And one of the things that helped really set that and put that over on top of their violent matches that they had was Swerve Strickland breaking into Hangman Page's home and like talking to his baby. That was what? What are you doing? That is so unacceptable, right? And Hangman Page retaliated by burning down his childhood home. I'm sorry, but it's hella funny. It's hella funny. It was so funny because throughout the entire day, like AEW had been promoting, you know, Swerve Strickland. He bought his childhood home. He just signed a big money contract. He used it to buy this house that has so many memories. And then that was all, like, so many people fell for this, by the way. Like, people thought this was legit. Like, oh, damn, like, that's really nice. You know, congratulations to Swerve. What a man, you know, all of those things, right? And it ended up being part of the story where his house gets burned down, and it became so synonymous. It became so iconic that now flames and fires are like synonymous with Hangman Page. And I am on the side of Hangman Page did nothing wrong. So this was a classic moment that had to go on this list. Plus, it was also super badass the way Hangman did it because he was sitting in front of the house, lit the place on fire, and didn't even once like get nervous. He didn't ever once turn around. No, he just let the freaking flames just blow up behind him. And when you see the picture, the video, there's a video that was out there that showed the, you know, behind the scenes, and Hangman Page is incredibly close to that house. So the fact that he didn't even have any sign of any nerves, he had a steady hand, I mean, that was really badass. So shout out to our favorite cowboy, Hangman Page. Now, on to our next really great AEW Dynamite moment that has to be on here, in my opinion. Let's talk about some ladies. Now, truth be told, 10 slots is not enough because there are so many moments with women in AEW that I haven't even had a chance to mention on this list. So technically this list should have been way longer, but I do want to go ahead and give it to Mariah May's turn on Toni Storm, because if you saw this, you know how bloody it was and how mean and how devastating and how ugly it was. Earlier, we were talking about Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland being one of the best feuds in AEW. Well, my friends, there is Toni Storm and Mariah may give it a run for its money, because the way this entire story played out, from the beginning of Mariah May fangirling to Toni Storm, to this moment where she turned on her, to the Hollywood ending, it is one of the most beautifully done women's storylines in AEW. And this specific turn, when Mariah May turned on Toni Storm after she had won the Owen Hart Cup final, she started attacking both Toni Storm and Luther with the championship belt, and Toni Storm gets instantly busted open, but then she goes in with the shoe and just starts like stabbing Toni Storm in the face. And it was one of the most violent attacks I'd ever seen. And so I had to put it on this list for the incredible damage it did to their friendship in that moment, but also just the grand story of it all. It had to be on this list. Now, unfortunately, we only have a spot for one more thing on here. So I tried to think like, okay, what else? Mind you, there are so many things that should be on this list, but I decided to go with Cody Rhodes jumping off of this steel cage in the first ever AEW steel cage match where Cody Rhodes faced Wardlow. And this took place February 19th, 2020. And the specific moment was obviously Cody Rhodes doing the moonsault off the top of the cage. Watching that back, even now, still has me like, oh damn, I can't believe he did that. And Cody just flew, man. Like the visual of that is insane. Cody did some very extreme things during his time in AEW. So I, of course, had to mention that moment as well. Now, here's the fun part, the part where all of you AEW fans, let me know in the comments section what other moments you would include on this list. Mind you, there's a whole lot. And there's also moments, there's matches. Like if this was a match list, I would definitely have to put best of 7 series that we saw with the Death Triangle and the Elite and the matches that occurred during Dynamite, because this is a Dynamite specific video. And then also seeing their 7th final match. I got to see that in person. Insane. Darby Allin versus Will Ospreay Holiday Bash. I mean, there's just so much. Thunder Rosa winning the AEW World Championship as a fellow Mexican girl. Hella freaking cool to see that too. So there are just a lot of moments, a lot of things that have occurred on AEW Dynamite, and I'm just happy that I got to talk about a few here. But yeah, let me know in the comment section below what else you would add to this list. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you are an AEW fan or a WWE fan or any wrestling fan, whatever your cup of tea is, make sure you guys subscribe here to the channel. And if you're in the mood to watch another video, you can watch this one right here because this is the one that YouTube specifically thinks that you're going to enjoy. Alrighty guys, thank you so much. Catch you on the next one. Bye everyone.